Okay, now here's a change of pace. What is the etiquette on a nature strip? Now, we've had this debate, I reckon, many times over the years. People say, why do I have to maintain the damn thing when it's actually not my property? And then somebody will say, well, I'll look after it, I'll put flowers and plants and bushes on it. And the council comes along and says, no, you're not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that. A Springvale woman has uncovered a loophole on nature strips. Her name is Flora Gutierrez. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Okay, now what have you discovered?
Well,
yes.
It all started, right, because I cut my grass, right, like everybody does it. And the next morning, there was about 10 poops of doggy poop on it.
Terrific.
So I made a complaint to the council. I rang the council to say, this is just not on, right? They've done it on purpose, right? And the councillor who rang me back said, look, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it because we don't have any proof of who did it. Yeah. And I said, fair enough, well then I'm not going to cut the grass because there's poop on the nature strip.
Yeah.
And the councillor said, the gentleman who called me, he said, well, you don't have to cut it. And then I thought, whoops, wait a minute, I don't have to cut it. So I said, really? And he said, well, he must have realized, oh, shit, whatever I said. And then he said, yes, but it's going to look really bad. And I said, that's all right, I don't have to, if you don't have to cut it, then I won't cut it. And then he said, but it's going to take a while to get it cut. And I said, well, that's fine. But it's going to look bad. And I said, I don't care. I don't have to cut it. I won't cut it. So I sent an SMS to Sean O'Reilly. He's my counsellor. So I thought I'll ask him, is that true? I don't have to cut the grass. And he mentioned something about Monash. And I said, that's all right. I don't live in Monash. I live in Springvale. And if I don't have to cut the grass, I don't need to cut the grass. And that's where the whole thing started.
So you haven't cut the grass?
Oh, I have cut the grass. Of course I'm going to cut the grass. I haven't cut it yet. But, yes, I'm waiting for that poop to dissipate, to basically become, food for the plants.
So, meanwhile, is the council cutting the grass or not?
No, because apparently they will take a few weeks for them to come around, realize that no one's cutting that grass, and apparently they will cut it for me.
Okay, so by accident you've discovered this loophole. We're all living under the impression we have to maintain the nature strips.
That's correct.
And we don't.
But apparently we don't have to. No, apparently not.
What is this about dogs in your area? Why don't people clean up after their dogs?
Well, I don't think it's the problem with the dog. It's the people that are not educated. So what happened was, I believe someone must have cleaned up their backyard and decided to, instead of putting it in the rubbish bin, put it in someone else's nature strip.
Well, you reckon they've dumped it there? The dog hasn't left it?
Oh, definitely. Look, there's one dog. Usually there's one dog poop, Yes. Someone who walks the dog, has no decency and doesn't bring the little packet and doesn't pick it up. But 10 of them, all in one night, please. That's just...
Do you think maybe
they've done it on purpose?
Maybe they don't like you?
I don't know. Maybe they don't.
Okay. Thank you for that, Flora Gutierrez. Now, I'm getting the council advice in a moment. Do you or do you not? Have to maintain your nature strip? Are you required to maintain your nature strip, or is it this falsehood, misapprehension we've all been living under? 96900 693 13 13 32.
Until noon, you're listening to Neil Mitchell.
Few nominations for scary places or scariest place you've ever visited from John. Walking the streets of Cairo after dark, just my wife and myself. All was fine but scary. From Jack, I've travelled through Central and South America, including El Salvador, Honduras, rural Colombia, all very dangerous. But downtown Detroit is the scariest place I've ever been. Burnt out skyscrapers, army vehicle tipped over in the street, blocks of cars fenced up, covered with dust. It's a very interesting place. Scariest place in the world you've ever been. And just before everybody rushes out and sells a lawnmower and forgets cutting the nature strip, what is the situation? Flora says it's a loophole. You don't actually have to do it. You don't have to maintain your nature strip. From Greater Dandenong Council, Flora's councillor, Councillor Sean O'Reilly, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Thanks for your time. Is she right? You don't have to do it?
It's a bit of a grey area in that, as you said, the council...
Sorry, can you get a bit closer to the phone? We can't hear you.
Yeah, okay, I'll speak louder.
Phones are a problem in Dandenong, yep.
it's a bit of a grey area in that the council owns the land, but residents are obliged to maintain it and cut it. I think you'll find that most councils don't have specific requirements regarding the maintenance. They have general unsightly provisions and can issue warnings and so on. But if council found that there was a mass ejection of people not maintaining their nature strips, we know that people do want to live in a nice environment, so we would then pass local laws to crack down on it.
But as of now, is there no local law saying thou must maintain their nature strip?
We've got a policy on unsightly nature strips, but there's no, our Greater Dandenong Council doesn't have a specific length. I believe Monash Council has 30 centimetres maximum, but we don't have a specific length prescribed.
30 centimetres is pretty high for grass, though.
Yeah. So, but because I think also people realise that we can't have officers proactively, roaming the streets, finding unsightly nature strips. We do have to act on, when residents dob others in, and then take up the issue.
But if it's your land, your nature strip, why don't you maintain it?
If the council, well, look, that's an argument. You could say that, but I think most residents would want their money spent on things like libraries and core council services rather than sending people round to mow nature strips when it's just normally not that much problem, not that much trouble to mow it yourself.
So if I live in Greater Dandenong and I say, no, I'm not going to mow it, what happens?
Well, once it gets to a point where it is unsightly, then you would receive a warning from the council office. I think you've got 21 days to act on that, and then we can cut it and send you the bill. That's my understanding.
So you send us the bill. All right, thank you very much. Councillor Sean O'Reilly, Greater Dandenong Council. Anna, hello.
Oh, good morning, Neil. Yes, I have a constant battle with Moreland Council because there's a lot of people that rent around here and the grass is very, very long. I've received a couple of bits of information from the council, and I'm just reading here, nature strips are a council asset.
Yes.
However, it is the responsibility of residents to ensure and upkeep these areas. Then there's another bit. Council does not maintain nature strips in front of private properties. It is common practice throughout Australia for property owners or residents to maintain the nature strip. But I had a little win because there's a little place where a little group of us elderly people walk, and the other day a lizard ran out. Well, I've had a hip replacement.
Yeah.
Nearly fell over of fright. So I sent them a nasty email saying that, if I had injured myself, I would have taken legal action against the property owner and then the council. Well, 2 days after, mowed.
By the council or the property owner?
No, I think it was property owner. I didn't actually see it, but I thought, God, that was fantastic.
This does sound a bit grey. Everybody's saying it's your
very
obligation, but is it a legal requirement?
You can't get an answer about that. It is everything's a grey area today.
Thanks, Anna. Well, there you are. Oh, look, it's always, everybody does it and you must do it. It's an obligation, and probably most people do it without a worry. You would. But is it legally an obligation to maintain the nature strip? I did notice around the Mornington Peninsula at the weekend, there was a lot of grass uncut in little townships, nature strips and things, which the council's normally pretty good at knocking down quickly. Couldn't help wondering why they'd been so slack.
Until